putting an end to identity politics. This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
In fact, if the pace of change continues for the duration of Trump's presidency, however long that might be, I think he could become the most consequential president in the modern era.
Welcome back, America. Happy New Year to you. So who inspires you? I told you guys this story a while back. So my youngest son, he says to me, he was asked in school who's the most inspirational person. Who do you want to be? Whatever. He says his parents. I was like, wow. And he meant it. It wasn't like, my dad will get this way. I didn't even know. It was a paper that I read and he had said it. And if I hadn't read the paper, I would have never known that he had said that. But it's a fact. He says, his mom and his dad. And I know the amount of time I spent with this kiddo, and I can understand him saying that. So I say these things to explain to you that leadership is something that's noticed. I remember when my son, he would say to me things like, he'd go, Dad, can you come do such and such? And I'd say, no, not right now. And at one point in his development, he would say, Dad, you always say no or whatever. I go, that's not true. And I said, I tell you, I may do it or give me, whatever, but I always do what I tell you I'm going to do. And he thought, and I gave him 2 or 3 examples that had happened previously. And he goes, you're right. And I said, I know I'm right, because it's important for me that you are getting the real word for me. Like, I don't go, yeah, I'll be there in 2 minutes or whatever. Yeah, later. And then, because I remember that song, was it the Run for the Road? What's the song where the guy says, I forget the guy's name, but he says something like everything he wanted to do, his dad would say, yeah, we'll get to it later. We'll get to it later. We'll get to it later. And they never get to anything. And then his dad dies and he's like, we didn't get to anything except all the promises. And I remember as a kid hearing this song, and I can't remember the guy's name who did it. It's like a folksy guy. And I said, I'm not going to be that guy. If I tell, what I say to my kiddo I'd say things like, give me 5 minutes. And then I look at my clock, and because Lord knows he's there 5 minutes later, actually 4 minutes later. But I'd make sure that he knows exactly when I'm going to do something and that I live up to it. Because I look at that as he's looking to me for leadership. People love leaders, folks. Let me tell you, that's what they want. They like their style. They like that leaders set the pace. Leaders invigorate. They inspire people around them. What makes Trump a leader is he does exactly that. He will consider your ideas, but then he has to make a decision. And once that decision's made, he acts. You may not like it. It may not be exactly how you would do it, but he does it. It's really that simple. And that is what people want out of anybody. That's what you want out of your boss. That's what you want from your spouse. That's what you want from your kids. And if you're smart, you'll teach that. Trump confounds DC because they sorely lack leadership. They got people with pedigrees, Ivy Leaguers, where you couldn't find a leader in a million of them. Remember how the left said Donald Trump lived and breathed polls? And he did. He looked at polls through the jaundiced vision, as he should have, because he understood that they weren't giving him the whole truth. But when he was polling at 20%, he was like, hey, it's not bad. I don't know where it is, but it's not bad. And then when people would drop out, he would start polling, 26, 27%. He's like, hey, it's not bad. But there came a point where he would say, look, you can look at these polls any way you want. I'm not losing any ground. That's what the litmus test wasn't so much what I was gaining. He was like, I'm not losing any ground. I remember after his first debate, I thought, he's done. I mean, I was one going, man, he's an interesting character, but he's done. This debate was horrible. And his poll numbers stayed the same. And Trump's like, I didn't lose anybody. He didn't gain much, but he's like, I didn't lose anybody, did I? And you're sitting there going, that's an interesting way to look at things. I've got some interesting stories to tell you on how I've learned a lot in life by just listening to how people looked at things. Like when I used to train this kid, and he told me he was losing every tournament. And I was like, how are you losing tournaments, man? I'm spending hours with you, personally training you. And he's a good fighter. And then I called his girlfriend one day because it was like his 5th tournament. And I go, how's he doing? And she says, he came in 2nd. And when he did, I said, well, he told me he lost. And she goes, no, he came in 2nd. I said, well, how did he do last week? He got 2 seconds and a 3rd or whatever. I was like, what? So I finally got a hold of him, and he says, and I said to you, look, I talked to your girlfriend, and she says that you came in 2nd. He goes, yeah, I lost. And I went, what do you mean you lost? You got a 2nd place? He goes, I lost. And in that moment, the level of clarity that hit me like, wow, this is a unique individual. He didn't see 2nd place as, I got a trophy. He looked at it as, that's the first loser. I lost. And he told me point blank, until I start winning tournaments, that's the only way I look at this. So I'll see you next week for my next lesson, or whenever we scheduled it. Taught me a lot. That's the kind of stuff that you want your children to notice, that you have to glean out of all this nonsense that we see, folks. There are leaders ready to step up, and we've got to help them. And Donald Trump is one of those guys. And that's why he confounds D.C., because they don't have any leadership. They think, oh, well, they set up these fake polls in an effort to demoralize Trump. And he took he went, you know what? I didn't lose anybody. And they're like, well, you didn't gain. And he goes, so what? I didn't lose. And they're going, but that's not what the poll is supposed to be. You're supposed to look at the polls the way we look at the polls. Why didn't our strategy work? So right now, with Donald Trump, what they tell us when he got elected? Oh, it's the lowest polling, the lowest polling of any president that's ever got into office. Something like that. He's got the lowest numbers ever. For lowest first day. I mean, every poll that came out, how bad it was Trump. Oh, it's awful. It couldn't be worse. And Trump's trudging along. Hey, listen, we just saved Carrier. The polling is awful. Yeah, we're going to be bringing back lots of jobs and manufacturing jobs that Barack Obama said we couldn't. Oh, it couldn't be any worse in his polling. Polling. And so every time Trump would do something, unemployment has dropped. Oh, the polling doesn't show that. It was an attempt to demoralize Donald Trump. And you know what he did? He says, I don't give a crap about your polling. But then what's he do? He confounds them. He says, oh, by the way, polls show me even with Barack Obama after my first year. And what does the left do? Look at this crazy man looking at the polls. You get what I'm saying? Some of you do. You're nodding going, Kevin, yeah, you're right. Of course I'm right. I've got the polling to prove it. So they don't get it. They don't understand. A leader is a guy that says, look, I'm going to take the best of what I get. I'm not looking at the world through this crazy half empty thing. I'm looking at the world going, that's an interesting thing that I didn't drop in this poll. It's their crooked poll. They won't let me get any more. But here's what they what they can't stop. They can't tell me it's less. See, what the left does is they pick a number. It's a sale. I'm telling you right now. I'm explaining polling to you. The polling is the same way that the news is set. They tell you, what's the number that will demoralize the other side? Hey, let's try 37%. Donald Trump is polling at 37%. And you go, whoa. Now, I go, that's not even possible. Because I'm a leader. I go, that's not even possible. Donald Trump had roughly 50% of this nation who agreed that he should be president. And you're going to tell me, with the performance that he's had, that he's dropped off 13%. You're going to tell me that. Then you're going to tell me that more people like Barack Obama, he's the most popular president ever. Look at this. And what are we finding? No, he's not. Hillary Clinton, she's amazing. People love her. You know what the Democrats in 2018, let me tell you what the Democrats want for Hillary Clinton. Gone. Be gone. And she will be. Folks, you're witnessing leadership. And I hope you recognize it. I hope you understand that this is what we've craved. We've craved somebody that says, I don't really care. Look, be behind me, don't be behind me. If you are, great. If you're not, no problem. It's funny when Trump says something like, this person, he's a good guy, I like the guy. Then 2 days later, he's like, I don't know. I'm not sure about this guy anymore. What he's telling you is, if this guy doesn't want to jump on board with with policies that I've made a decision about, I don't believe maybe he isn't as good of a guy as I thought, because I've proven it. It isn't conjecture. And people, that's egotistical. You got to follow him or else. No, he's saying, look, I'm going to make a decision. You can't make the decision. Follow or get out of the way, because you're not going to lead.
He won't stop until he's the top-rated radio talk show host in America.
What kind of weird competitive freak are you?
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.